upping the pressure, the Trump administration announcing it will no longer exempt any countries from U.S. sanctions if they continue to purchase oil from Iran. Listen.
The goal remains simple: to deprive the outlaw regime of the funds it has used to destabilize the Middle East for 4 decades and incentivize Iran to behave like a normal country. Today, I'm announcing that we will no longer grant any exemptions.
Here now is Jeff Smith from the Heritage Foundation. What do you think of this move?
Well, I think it's consistent with the administration's intent to really squeeze Iran. You know, they've taken several measures over the past year to do that, including targeting the IRGC as an international terrorist organization. They've been ratcheting up the oil sanctions, and, you know, to their credit, they've been working. They say that they've deprived Iran of some $10 billion in oil revenues since last May. But I do have some reservations about how this decision was made and sort of a blanket policy of not granting any exemptions at all.
Well, why? Who do you think deserves an exemption?
Well, you know, I may be biased because this is my part of the world, but I think if you ask anyone in Washington, D.C., who works in the policy field, they'd tell you that India is one of our most promising strategic partnerships and is critical to the administration's Indo-Pacific strategy. In fact, the administration has stated that on many occasions. And I think it presents some, you know, unfortunate optics and timing hitting India with sanctions while it's in the middle of democratic elections. In fact, the biggest democratic exercise in human history, 900 million people going to the polls.
Yeah.
You know, Prime Minister Modi...
Let me turn that back on you and say, okay, so if India is one of our biggest allies, then it makes sense that they would be the ones to cooperate with us in our pursuit. And isn't it possible for us to, rather than giving them some sort of waiver to continue to do business with Iran? I mean, we're the #1 producer of oil in the world. I know oil is fungible, but isn't there a way for us to either, you know, provide oil to them through some other venue in order to get them to comply with this, or to make it easier for them to comply?
Well, I think that's fair. And in fact, U.S. exports of oil to India have been growing significantly and are likely to grow in the future. And India, for its part, has been reducing, you know, oil imports from Iran. They made up 14% of Indian oil imports last year. Now they make up 5%. What I would have liked to have seen is maybe a little more flexibility in how we apply these waivers, maybe a recognition that our partners sometimes deserve different treatment from China, and maybe another 6 months to continue, maybe lower that cap on oil imports, but give them a little more time to get through their election and get our bilateral relationship back on course.
Doesn't it seem, though, if you have to stand tough, I mean, that you would have to stand tough if you really mean nobody can buy oil from Iran, you can't give anyone a waiver. You could maybe change the way you treat them and find another way to help them out, as we discussed. What about the idea, so there's also China and Turkey. You know, these are countries that aren't really our allies in our battles with Iran here. China, do you think that this begins to figure into all the other things we're negotiating with them right now, including North Korea?
It certainly could. You know, the Chinese are not happy about these sanctions. I think we've been kind of vague about how they'll be applied and to what companies under what conditions. But there's a real risk that these sanctions could bite Chinese companies. I think, in part, the Chinese have a great interest in seeing some kind of trade package gets done. So I don't know how much leverage this is going to buy them in these negotiations. They may, in fact, have more interest in getting a package done than we do. But do they play hardball with North Korea a little bit more? Are they a little more unhelpful on other parts of our Iran strategy or our Pakistan strategy? That's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, or we just have to show that when we have an enemy, we're going to be tough against them, so you better stay on our side, could be the message. Jeff Smith, thank you.